Well, hello there. This is Idiots versus Idiots. It's a podcast where two heavyset friends take a lighthearted approach to business and marketplace news.
I see what you did there with the heavy set and lighthearted.
Thank you. That was on
very
purpose.
Nice.
That is in our description and all of our other things now, by the way. This is our after Christmas edition. Just had Christmas a few days ago. I sent Robert a wonderful text message wishing him a happy winter solstice, and he's like, I celebrate Christmas. I'm like, could you not appropriate my deal, guy? But whatever. We have four.
I say Merry Christmas. I say Merry Christmas.
So do I. I'm only half Jewish. So, anyways, that's actually a funny story. I always tell people that because it is technically true, and then people get confused and they're like, this is too much work.
Right.
I just celebrate Christmas and pray to Jesus. So, but that is my heritage. But let's just Philip DeFranco and just jump into these
just
stories.
Jump into it. Just jump into the crap.
And then throat punch your way out of it. We have four, I think, really fun stories for you today. And the first one, número uno.
Número uno.
Yeah. Apple, it really seems like this is a long-time rumor, and it really seems like Apple's going to make an electric car. And I have some questions for you. How do you think they're going to do it? And here's my thought. And I'll just say up front, open, transparency. This is Idiots versus Idiots. We pride ourselves on telling the truth about our feelings and being transparent and authentic.
Whatever idiotic comes out of our face holes is just whatever it is. Yes.
I hate people who like Apple products. The products themselves they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. My parents are wonderful people. My mother has no idea how oil goes from a field in Iran to her car. And neither of my parents know how every year, magically, they have a new iPhone.
Right.
Okay? That's because I signed them up for some sweet lease deal that you can't even get anymore with T-Mobile. And every single year, as long as I keep upgrading their lease, we're still grandfathered in. So every year, they get brand new iPhone. And they have no clue how they arrived. They just go, "Oh, my phone looks different." I was like, "Dad, you had a black phone. This one is bright red now." And it took him 2 weeks before he's like, "Is this different?" Or something?
Is there a different? I still use it for texting and calling. So is there a difference? Yeah. But look, I am with you there in my disdain for the Apple elitists. Right, yes. Of the world. I don't think any phone is worth standing in line for hours or days on end.
I don't think they have the lines like they used to. I think by iPhone 6 or 7, people stopped caring that much.
They created brand loyalty. And you know what? Good for them, right?
God bless. Good for you. I'm glad that you did that. I have no compunction about that at all.
Right? There's this, if you have an Android phone, it's a cheap phone, even though it could be more expensive than an Apple phone or have better services or whatever. But that's a culture thing they created, and they've worked very hard on keeping it that way.
This is like $900, and it has a second screen attachment.
Well, I actually saw this week, and this is kind of off topic, but this is the Apple and Android conversation. They actually they made the comparison. They were talking specifically about Apple car batteries, which is where really Apple car design is different. It uses a completely different solid state battery versus, what Tesla's using. And what they were essentially making the comparison of Apple's Apple car to, is it going to be Apple's Apple car and Tesla be the Android comparison? Where Tesla's very open concept, they share their designs, their battery designs with the world, is what you mean. More open source, more this kind of more user friendly, that kind of thing.
Their supercharger station that network is open to every electric car maker. If you want to make an electric car, you can he patented it. And Elon Musk named it after Tesla. Tesla was famous for patenting things and then opening the patent to the whole world. You guys can do whatever you want with it. And I think Elon Musk's, I've said this on the show before, his kind of, dropped acid approach to building business is a little more my flavor.
Right. Well, but look, and I don't know that the Apple car will ever truly exist. Because
they're saying 2024.
Yeah, but they say a lot of things.
Here's the thing. I will base how much I believe a story based on who is willing to report it. Right. And CNET, which is a storied technology media brand, I trust when they say a piece of technology will, or at least that somebody, within the proper channel says it's going to exist. Whether or not it comes to fruition. Now, here's what I'm wondering: there's a dozen or half dozen or so startup electric car companies. We've covered the Nikola Tesla, the
Right.
Nikola scam on this channel before.
We have.
My favorite scam of 2020. I have another one from we're going to cover next episode. I think it was my 2019 best scam of the year, and I'm still listening to podcasts about this scam because it was so good. So this is a little teaser for you, but I do think that it's not impossible. Here's the one thing that Apple has over every other one of these startups, right? Lucid took, I think it was $1 billion plus from the Saudi fund, which is the Aramco fund, which is the Saudi kingdom's money.
Right.
They took Chinese money. It was like they're $1 billion plus into. There's several rounds, and they've done $1 billion couple rounds. They don't have a product you can go buy yet.
Well, sure. Look, they have the battery, right? Which is the biggest thing about an electric car, is a different take on, the battery, which again is a solid state battery. It's supposed to last longer. It's supposed to be better. It's supposed to be lighter, which is a big deal.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say, though, the point I was trying to get at was the one thing that Apple has that none of these other companies have is stupid volumes of cash. Not that they have stupid, like, their valuation. I'm talking, they have these things that in Silicon Valley seems like it's just a myth, which is called profits.
Right. Yeah. No,
they definitely have profits.
They definitely have the money to push back into things, but so does a company like Toyota, right? I mean, Toyota has a crap ton of money to shovel into something like this. There's a lot of companies. Look, this is, to me, you have all these electric, you know what I mean? Tesla's really the only one that's done it so far, and that to only a really certain extent, right? That they have not been largely profitable.
And then I do think, like, I'll just throw this in there. I think General Motors' design, the original design of General Motors, like their cars were dumb, right? The Volt and so on, but the original concept of it's a gas electric hybrid, where the gas engine is charging the electric engine, so it's extremely, like, it's only turning 500 RPMs. It's a generator effectively, right? And I think that has, to me, as a car guy, that has more legs than just a straight electric.
Yeah,
right?
Well, and that ability to, okay, if I can get 200 miles out of the electrical portion of my engine, and then the gas engine kicks in to give me the other 200 that I'm going on, you know what I mean? Where I don't have that, fear of getting away from a plug or whatever
range
it is.
anxiety. They call it range anxiety.
Right.
And the problem that the straight electric, the electric only car has isn't simply range anxiety, it's charging time, right? And the more this is simply the way it goes. The faster they scale charging, the crappier your battery life is.
Right. Well, yeah, because it's all about heat and transfer of energy, right? And that kind of stuff. There's actually a company here in Cedar Park that's been here for last 10 or 15 years, and all they are is a specific battery design company. They're a think tank that have designed batteries for Tesla and for all the kinds of different companies, and they're constantly trying to come up with new, better ways, right, to go about this. And that is really, that's where a lot of the things I read, even about Tesla all these years and whatever, is that the next great breakthrough in battery technology will be the next great breakthrough in EV cars. We are not there yet from a battery standpoint. They still weigh too much. Talk to any Tesla certified mechanic out there. They'll tell you that even under warranties, all these different Tesla models are constantly redoing shocks and control arms and all this stuff because the car weighs a ton on these chassis that they're making light enough to make this stuff work.
And that's why a lot of these electric car companies are going to trucks, like, because that is that design already is conducive to heavy vehicles. Right. So that's somewhere where you can actually put a lot of range into some. And that's why I'm as anti-EV and as pro internal combustion as they come, simply because I just can't get over the noise. To me, driving a car, I don't care like how fast, there's always going to be a faster car, but I'm saying, I don't know if you've probably seen them running around on the highway, a Hellcat, Dodge
Yeah,
Challenger, Charger
of
Hellcat.
course.
My buddy had one, and I ripped this thing down the highway. I went only the speed limit because I obey laws. But the noise it makes is like the heavens part and the angels are singing, and you're just
Dude,
and
my first car was a
supercharger.
71 Chevelle, okay? I called
Yeah.
it the ball rattler because literally the exhaust pipes down both sides
Yeah,
directly
yeah,
from the
yeah.
engine led right down in between the bench seats of the passenger
Yeah.
and the driver. So when I hit the passing gear, when I put my foot into it, regardless of how
Yeah.
fast or slow I was going down the highway, and you heard that roar, that kick down, that
Yeah.
it literally tousled your balls. Okay?
Yeah.
It was because of now again I'm with you.
You are so fat that you needed a bench seat, aren't you?
Hey, shut your face. Anyway, the you're an idiot.
It's true.
The point being is, yes, you have true car guys like you and I that have this sound issue from an EV that I don't get the vibration, I don't get the feeling of driving a car, but those are things that can be mimicked and fixed.
Yeah.
You can create a muffler, right, on one of these cars to create sound. So those things can be mimicked down the line, but I think it's a low priority for them to figure out right now.
And there's there BMW already today with their existing cars, they understand, they're the ultimate driving machine. They already have the technology. They're already pumping car noise, they're already pumping exhaust note into the car's stereo.
Absolutely.
So that because listen, and on some level it's mystery meat, and I'm like, nah, I want the real thing. I want to know this thing had a mom and it died and was sad and it felt feelings, because that's how it's tasted. Okay.
I get it, but look, I go back to the original story. I don't think Apple will have a car, or if it does, it'll be short-lived. I think what ultimately ends up happening is what Elon Musk said a year ago, which is, hey, I would love to get Tesla to a point where General Motors or Ford Company or Diamond Chrysler or whoever says, you know what, we're going to partner together and we're going to figure this crap out forever, right? We're going to use all this technology that you come forward. It'll be a conglomeration that eventually happens. You will not end up with 12 different car companies making electrical vehicles.
Yeah.
You'll end up with 4 or 5 or 6, just like automakers.
So one thing about what you just said I want to dissect really quick here was, you said Daimler Chrysler. Welcome to 2002.
I apologize. Yes.
Yeah, they're right now. It's finally been approved. This is a side. We're getting off track here, but they've, Daimler Chrysler stopped existing like a long time ago.
2000.
This is 6 or 7, right up until the crash. Yeah,
Chrysler
so
does technically exist.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, we run a business podcast, and you just said, like, you don't. And literally Chrysler just merged with PSA, like Fiat Chrysler, so they're called Stellantis now.
Whatever. But yes, you get my point.
Yeah, no, and here's what I think. I think, what's interesting story about Elon Musk. I think when he attempted to get Tim Cook to buy them at $60 billion. Mm-hmm. Today Tesla's valued at $650 billion. Oops.
Yeah.
Oops, Timmy Cook.
Yeah. Oops.
Tim Apple. Come on, man. Tim Apple. You jacked that one up. And it's just like, how many times did Google attempted to sell themselves to Yahoo, and Microsoft attempted to buy Yahoo for like 44 million, and then they got sold to Verizon for 4 billion. There's a 44 billion.
Netflix to Blockbuster. I mean, look,
Yep,
you can go down the list over and over.
And ultimately it was their suicide that they didn't do that. Here's what I think, though. I think just like Apple acquired Beats and they took their time, and they still sell Beats headphones, but you can also go buy a $600 pair of over-the-ear phones that, basically just hijacked Beats technology, and that's so it's no longer Beats by Dre, it's Apple Beats. So what I think they will do is they will acquire perhaps one, if not 2 or 3, in a roll-up type strategy. They will roll up a handful of different electric car makers, because they have the cash to do it, and they don't have to go configure infrastructure. They'll redo infrastructure to make it Apple infrastructure, but I'm just saying, like, they don't have to go build factories. They already have the battery technology, which is the hard part.
Absolutely.
right? And so what's interesting is Apple went out and hired, I forget the guy's name. His name's Ron Johnson, actually, now that I remember. And he was, for a brief period, the CEO of J.C. Penney, when they went completely downhill. But before that, he was the guy who brought Apple stores into fruition
Okay. Well, I
from
mean,
just a concept. They went and hired a guy, I think he was like the CEO of Mervyn's, California or something. Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, I think they go acquire acquire their way to the.
do they? I think they have the money for it, but I just don't. I don't know that Apple wants to be making cars. I think it's a. I think like a lot of things, you have companies, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, with deep pockets that are looking for things to spend money on, whether it's for a tax write off or whether maybe we do knock this one out of park. You know what I mean? Out of the park somehow. I just don't know that Apple wants to be making cars. Again, I go back to Elon Musk just because he's done this for so much longer. This guy went to General Motors and said, hey, let me use your factories, right, that you're building cars out of, and let me make Teslas out of them. You already have the floor. And they were like, nah, we're not helping anybody that's, you know what I mean, that our competitor. And then Elon Musk tries to start creating his own factories, and that's led to its own issues, right? Its own set of issues and that kind of stuff. I don't know that Apple wants to go down that road.
The difference, as I said before, between Apple and Tesla even is Tesla has to deal with like stock prices, right? Apple has, they're a public company, but I'm just saying Apple has this thing called profits. They are printing money over there. Like they're the Federal Reserve. Okay. And they're like, if I was them, I obviously, I'm not them. I'm seeing a roll-up strategy that works, which they're just going to acquire X. There's a couple Chinese ones where, that's a lot of where the manufacturing is going to be. The other interesting thing too is Tesla acquired factories from Toyota and General Motors.
Right.
One of their I think it's their California factory was a joint venture from Toyota General Motors.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was called Numi or something like that. And when that agreement was terminated, when that agreement finished, is when Tesla moved their entire operation to Plano, Texas, and that is what I think Elon Musk purchased. So I mean, I just think to me, it's fascinating. I think the future is so interesting. But I'm still just, let me recall the tweet from Peter Thiel, which said, I was promised flying cars and all I got was 180 characters. It's before Twitter gave him more characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, listen, if the cars are flying in the sky, I don't really care if they're, ice engines, right? But if they're on the ground, I want them to go vroom vroom. Okay.
I think they've almost but given up on flying cars for the most part. I think they are so stuck on getting us off of fossil fuels, getting us off of gasoline as a whole, or at least mostly, that that is what that's their forward thinking right now.
So here's the thing, and let me just make a extremely political statement. That is a obnoxious, first of all, goal, and it is innocuous in the sense that digging up these batteries out of the ground, because at the end of the day, they're not just like, thinking them into existence using 100%, the secret.
Yeah.
They are drilling into the ground. Some poor African kid probably is losing his arm because they're in a mine somewhere, a Congolese mine, extracting battery, the stuff they put in the
components,
batteries. Yeah, battery components. And there has been studies. There was a study done, I forget what year it was, but it was when they were still making Hummers, like, before the Hummer EV. Mm-hmm. Like, it's actually better on the environment because, they have to take the battery from Africa. They send it to Japan, and the car gets made in Japan and sent to the United States. You're actually doing more for the environment by buying an older car with horrible fuel economy. But the problem is, this is not owning that Tesla, that Prius, it's not and this ties into Apple in a certain way. It's a cultural thing. It's about it's about virtue signaling. I'm a good person.
Absolutely.
And then going, hey, that guy's diesel truck that is 60 years old and it's blown coal. He's rolling coal everywhere. It's actually better for the environment because, it's staying on the road longer, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But I just want to wrap up the story by saying this. I like electric cars, but I despise electric car owners the same way I hate Apple fanboys. I
Sure.
don't hate people who just go to the store and like, yeah, I need a phone, give me an Apple phone because that's ubiquitous and it's just easier to use the ubiquitous thing.
Right.
I'm not offended by that Apple user. And I'm also not offended by someone who's like, dude, I drive 30,000 miles a year. I'm a salesperson. I don't care about cars. It's a frying pan. It's a utility. It's a commodity to
Right.
me. That doesn't bother me. You'll buy your Prius. Like it's a perfectly reliable car to do that.
Absolutely. You
Right,
drive 4 miles to work, right? Because you live in a downtown, condo or whatever. Yeah, no problem with it whatsoever.
Not offended by it. But what I do despise is I'm doing something for the planet. That's why I drive a $100,000 Tesla.
Yeah, no,
That-
I'm with you there. The Apple elitism, right? The EV elitism, right?
It's the same group of people. It's the same chuckleheads that we see, and we see them in Austin when it's downtown Austin, when it's 60 degrees, and they're wearing a freaking fleece vest. Stop.
Well,
I'm just saying, like,
you're talking about the consumer side versus, and then
Yeah.
you flip it over to the business side. Hey, I got no problem with you, right?
I don't.
You can
I
get
really don't.
somebody
Like-
to spend $100,000 on a vehicle that they could probably, you know what I mean? Again, carbon footprint and blah yada 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 for half that, right?
Yeah.
You're getting them to do it, right? I mean,
Right.
what is it? What's the EV one? The loader motors. What's the one?
Local Motors.
No. The Lordstrom.
Lordstown.
Truck. Yeah.
it's Lordstown.
So that one, I mean, I was just reading an article this week. Something like 80,000 have, put a deposit down on, right? And as they get more and more orders, though, it just gives them more and more of that elitism kind of thing, right? People just want to be the first 80,000 people that have that truck.
It's not
if
just
it ever
that
hits
they
the
want to
market.
be the first, right? I think that they want to be like, look at me, I'm doing something good for the environment. And if you want to do something good for the environment, God bless, good luck, go ahead and do it. But if you want to talk about having done something good for the environment, you're in a cult.
I understand. It definitely is a.
If you want to eat keto, if you want to be a vegan, if you want to go do CrossFit, I don't care. But if you want to talk about it, you're in a cult. Okay. Ready for story number 2?
I think you accusing of all EV drivers and Apple people of being in a cult. I think that's where we should end the story. I think that feels right. I think that's exactly where this story should end. That Danny called all Apple users and EV users in a cult.
But that's not what I said. You're mischaracterizing what I said. But I will take that as a transition. Domino's is looks like they're giving all their workers, right? Did I read the story correctly?
Yeah.
This is one of those rare times where Big Man actually sent me a story, and I permitted us to do it.
Yes. Danny is a,
I'm a
story Nazi. He is a story Nazi is what he is. But go ahead.
They're giving all of their hourly workers $1,200 in bonus.
You know what? And I did send you the story because I think it is important. We've talked about it on this podcast before that we wanted this podcast to be something that is that puts some positivity out in the world, that we talk about some good things. And here is a situation where a company that doesn't have to is giving tens of millions of dollars of its profits that, guess what? Guess one of the food industries that is actually making a crap ton of money this year in 2020.
Carry out pizza,
right? So they're giving tens of millions of dollars to their employees. Now, granted, obviously, I don't think this is 100% for them, right? It's a way for them. Guess what's probably been a high turnover year for employees, right? And a hardworking year to keep employees, right, during COVID and that kind of stuff. So obviously, this is one of those things you can do as a company and go, see, we took care of y'all. You need to keep working. You need to keep showing up. You need to stay here longer, yada, yada. But it is still, at the end of the day, these people that get these $1,200 checks, good for them, good for giving away profits and stuff like that. And guess what? In the grand scheme of things, you're talking about a publicly traded company that is trading somewhere between, I think, $350 and $400 a share. This is not a company this is a drop in the bucket. This is something that they can get these kind of headlines. You and I can sit here and talk about how this is a great thing that is nothing to them. I mean, it is pocket change to them.
This is a fraction of what I would guess their advertising budget is. I could guess their advertising budget is gonna exceed this in a quarter probably, right?
Right.
So this volume of good press is hard. You can't buy it for this amount of money.
No, this probably cost them in totality less than a Super Bowl commercial, which they always have. You know what I mean? And so, that's my point. I am surprised that more companies did not use this Christmas season to do more things like this of the companies that have been profitable this year. And there are a lot of companies that have been more profitable this year that have been just not even strategically, just kind of happenstance because of COVID and the way we live our lives now, that have been able to make a lot of money. And I was surprised more and more haven't done that this season just because of what you just said. The advertising they're getting from this outweighs anything else that they've done this year in advertising.
Yeah, you have to stop saying that word. You can say Tecate or Dos Equis. But anyways... Because we're going to get tagged, man. It drives me freaking nuts.
I apologize.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
All right, Dos Equis.
I blame Sue, or whatever the heck the CEO of YouTube's name is. Or my cousin Sundar Pichai is the CEO of Google. I blame him. Screw you, man.
Can we just end up just screw you, everybody? We'll just make a list. Every now and then we'll just look at the list and go, oh, by the way, screw that person.
Yep, exactly.
I'm all for that. But
no, listen, and this is not the first time Domino's has done something in this vein. They were filling potholes, I think it was last year or the year before.
Oh yeah.
And they were spray painting over the potholes that Domino's filled it. And to the, everyone knows I'm a anarcho-capitalist, which is a type of libertarian. The number one question that we often, the meme in our circles is like, who's going to build the roads if we get rid of the government? Domino's!
Domino's apparently
is going to be building you the road.
Whatever small town got that, won that contest or got those roads,
It wasn't a contest. It was literally, they just went around and found potholes.
Well, but imagine, come on, if Domino's had to fix the potholes in your city, you got to feel like your city has let you down at that point, right? Like,
listen, as someone who believes the things I believe, I want people to feel that. And I want them to go, if a pizza chain, okay, a place that is dominated, where the workforce is dominated by people who wouldn't even understand idiots versus idiots, because that's where they are on the that's where they are on the food chain of life.
Right. No pun intended. Yes.
Right. Exactly. These are not, and there's nothing wrong with being that kind of person, because you work by the sweat of your brow. You make a good. I know people who, like, my friend had a kid at a time he wasn't expecting to have a kid, still delivering pizzas, and he's like, I put diapers on my
pizza. Hey, pizza drivers can make some money in certain places, and you get a
and that's beside the point. What I'm saying is the feeling, when you get that feeling that a company whose workers are dominated by a certain class of intellect, and I'm paying somebody $150,000 a year to be my congressperson, and you can't figure out, like, I pay 4 cents to the oil company to take oil out of the ground, refine it, bring it to me, and make it so it goes in my car, and I'm giving 40 cents to the government to put a road down. For every gallon of gas you pump, that's roughly the breakdown. 40 cents to the government, 4 cents to the, so anytime anyone's like, these evil oil companies and their profits, and they can't figure out how to put a road in, but a dum-dum at the pizza shop.
Right.
That I want you to feel that. I want you to go, my town is letting me down, but my pizza franchise is not. And that's how.
That's some loyalty right there. That is how anarcho-capitalists like myself, that's how we are made. Okay? We go, wait. I gave these ding-dongs money. They can't figure out how to put a road there. The pizza guy can. Screw the government. Let's give the government over to Domino. That's all it boils down to for Danny, folks, is screw the government. Yep. That's all Danny That's all it boils down to for
Always.
Danny is screw the government. But yes, they did a
But
good
this is
thing, and they'll benefit from it. They'll sell some more
absolutely.
pizzas. They'll sell some more pizza pies for it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
They have sandwiches and pasta. You can go. You know that we're not sponsored by Domino's today, but if
we
you go
need
to
to be
Domino's,
sponsored by Domino's.
I
I will
know.
wear a Domino's shirt. I have no problem with that. My
I would
fat
ride around
ass.
with one of those on my lifted car.
That's
now.
right.
Like, okay,
My
because,
fat ass will put one of those sunskers right here next to the
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers logo. Like right, I don't have a problem with it. But
And I'm
no.
just going to ignore. I'm just going to ignore the fact that you are Texas born and raised from Dallas, and you're a Steelers fan.
Hey, you
There
know
is
what?
something.
Shut it. We're all idiots in our own way. I'm sure Cowboys fans will hate it, but it is what it is. Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the way it is. Can we move on, please? You got another story? What are we doing?
We have plenty of other stories, big man. Take your time.
We do. All right. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
this is our first time in the history of idiots versus idiots. We have a subscriber question.
Woo! Yes.
Yeah.
I am telling all my fake friends about this.
Yeah, so the subscriber is actually someone in my family. So.
Oh, well, hey, why'd you have to tell that? We could have rode that one for a while. Like,
But we will link down in the description the 2020's most profitable franchises.
Yes.
And the question that I wanted to talk to you about this was,
I took a look at this list.
yeah. So, what are your thoughts on franchising in general? I know at some point in time, weren't you a Century 21 franchisee?
At one point, I was, yes.
Okay, not anymore.
No.
At one point, a long time ago. Do you think franchises? And I'll talk about my opinion on them. Do you still think they are worth investing into? And do you think they're a decent path to entrepreneurship?
I think that it's a more complicated question than are they good or not. I think 90% of franchises are almost but worthless. I mean, the amount of franchising opportunities, quote unquote, out there are a lot of them are just take advantage of people in a lot of different ways. I've invested in companies, not specifically franchises, but companies that do franchises that then I've invested in enough of them to see how bad ones are run, and they're run into the ground, and then they go to make zero money and leave franchisors out there in the cold. There's a lot of really bad ones, and it's hard because of the way they're marketed to know the difference between good ones and bad ones.
Right.
So to me, 90% is a no. They are not worth it. If you want to start a carpet cleaning business or you want to start a maid service business, you can just as easily market yourself and make just as much money and keep all of your money. Now, there are exceptions. There is that 10%, like that list that you were referring to.
Yeah. So
when
let me
you
read
have
just
high-quality names that bring a value.
So let me just talk about the ones that we're seeing here, the top 10. Starting with 10, Ace Hardware, Supercuts, Jan Pro, Pearl Vision, Anytime Fitness, The Maids, Dream Vacations, the UPS Store, which, hey, I mean, in a pandemic year, right? People are buying a lot of stuff on Amazon. How do you do returns? UPS Store. Dunkin' Donuts, or it's just Dunkin' now, because America runs on Dunkin'.
Right.
And of course, Mac Arnold's number one, McDonald's. Here's my thoughts on franchising. Here's what I think is interesting. If you're going to go buy a franchise, kind of like what you said, if they offer something to you that you can't build on your own, right? And because if they offer a name that people recognize, if they offer something, and I know, we actually know someone. You probably don't remember him, but he was a franchisee of a sandwich place.
Okay.
I won't say which one, but it was a launching point for him. He was in the franchise he rode it up. He rode the franchise to its peak, sold off his stores, and it was an opportunity for him to be an entrepreneur where, sometimes entrepreneurship requires a certain amount of creativity and a certain amount of this and that. Mm-hmm. And we talked about, I think it was a few episodes ago, a friend of yours who owns a pizza franchise.
Right.
Had no previous business experience, and that's where I think buying a franchise is maybe the opportunity that franchising offers. If you get a chunk of cash from a settlement or whatever, an inheritance, who knows, or you just save your money and you don't buy a house and you buy a franchise instead. I think what's interesting though is, a friend of mine and I had looked into buying two different franchises. He was from the South, and this is back when I lived up north. But um, he's like, dude, you guys don't have Chick-fil-A here, and you don't have Sonic. And we looked at both of those franchises, and one thing that they had in common, and Chick-fil-A is fantastic to its franchisees,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
It's really good to you, and they don't make you take any debt. You borrow money from Chick-fil-A.
Exactly.
I think you put up $7,000. But here's the thing: Chick-fil-A is a rule. You got to work 30 hours a week in a restaurant, and there is no. That's it. Like, and for a lot of people, that might be like, well, yeah, but dude, if I'm going to go work 40 hours somewhere, I'd rather work 30 in a place that I own.
Right.
And I'd rather, where that doesn't have all this startup costs and all this stuff. And they, maybe you have a value alignment of your values there. But it's like, well, let's say, for instance, you were a manager of a Taco Bell or something. I know somebody who used to manage Taco Bell, made $40,000 a year, $45,000 a year. I mean, if you can put the money together and you can get approved, and they have a pretty lengthy process, because you're not paying them a lot of money. They're making the money on the back end. But to me, as someone I wouldn't call myself an established entrepreneur, but my thought process on entrepreneurship is a little more developed. I'd go, why would I buy myself a job?
Well, what you're doing is,
if I don't
buying
have
a blueprint.
severability.
You're buying a blueprint, right? And yes, certain entrepreneurs, I know several that have done the franchising route, and if it fits their personality types, I think really good franchises bring a couple of things to the table. One of them you kind of alluded to there, that their process is kind of lengthy. Any good franchise is going to have reasons why their process is so lengthy or expensive. There's several franchises out there that you have to not only put up this fee, but you have to be worth a certain amount of money to guarantee that you can afford to run this kind of business and that kind of stuff. And what is that? Do you really need that amount of money to run it? No. They're trying to create hurdles to eliminate certain types of people. Chick-fil-A is creating hurdles so that their business owners, they're trying to get to a certain type of person, right? The person that wants skin in the game, the person that, you know what I mean? The whole financing it themselves and stuff like that. By the way, benefits them, because if you don't keep up your payments and whatever, they're going to just take over the restaurant.
The store back, yeah.
Right. So they're doing all these things for a reason, right? The ones that fall in the other 90% are occasionally a lot of these low cost, right, franchises of names that you don't recognize and stuff like that, that yes, they provide you with a blueprint, but they don't provide you with what you just said, that name recognition, which is really the biggest part of a franchise. Is McDonald's doesn't fail.
No.
McDonald's as a company, you put a new McDonald's, I don't care if it's 3 blocks from the last McDonald's don't fail. Chick-fil-A's don't fail. Ace Hardwares aren't going to fail. The only one that I found that was weird for me on that top 10 list.
No, I think I don't know anything about Ace Hardware. I'm not disparaging them. I'm just saying, I don't know let me just put it this way. I don't own one, and I wouldn't put my money into an Ace Hardware.
Well, again, but the one that was on that list that I found was the Dream Finders one, the travel
Dream
agent.
Dream
Vacations, the travel agent.
Dream Finders.
I'm sorry.
This show with you is impossible.
Okay, Dream Finders is I'm a real estate agent. Dream Finders is a home builder here in Central Texas. Sorry about that. Dream Vacations. I can't tell you the last time I used a vacation agency. You know what I mean? It doesn't, because when's the last time anybody did? I thought the internet killed these companies a long time ago. The last time I used one was a couple of years ago. I took the kids to Walt Disney, and I used an actual Walt Disney. Believe it or not, they have actual Walt Disney. That's all she sells is packages to Walt Disney, and it was cheaper than I could get myself. Now, how she accomplished that, I have no idea, but she did, and it was cheaper to go through her than it was for me to book everything. But how does Dream Vacation still exist, and how are they a franchise in 2020?
I remember maybe it was 5 years ago, my dad's uncle was booking a flight, and he's like, I just went over to the Sears vacation desk. I was like, pardon? What? He lives in Canada, and he had to come here. He was coming to visit my dad for something. He's like, oh yeah, I just went over to the. My dad's like, so like, you buy it on Expedia? Did you buy it directly from Delta? He's like, no, I bought it from Sears Travel Agent Desk. He's like, what? That was a thing?
That's still it.
Well, I didn't know Sears was up there still, but like it blew my mind. He got here.
Well, hey, but you know, and maybe it is still a thing in certain places. Maybe it's a high end thing, right? Where people that don't want to do their own stuff, they still call it this.
Yeah,
you know.
So like another one that like so some of these where I have a friend who was going to buy a franchise or might still buy a franchise. It was a cleaning company, and he had already owned his own cleaning business. And I was like, yeah, but you realize if you give these people, I don't know, however many dollars it was, let's say 50 grand. Like, do you know what you could do with how much advertising? You could saturate an entire region with marketing for $10,000. You could become the face of cleaning in a certain region for $15,000. And it's not complicated, man. You just scrub stuff.
Well, but yes, from an employee standpoint, but like I have a guy here that actually a previous client and a good friend of mine that I think is about to franchise his cleaning company, and he's looking at it, but this is where a lot of companies, and again these franchise companies, the missing piece is, even if I give you a blueprint, even if I give you marketing, a lot of these certain things like cleaning companies, especially commercial cleaning companies, which is the one my buddy owned, a company he started from scratch, not a franchise. And I mean, he's doing something like $3 million in business all by himself. You know what I mean? Each year. And
the Tecate year is a good year to be out there starting a cleaning business.
Well, yeah, right. But it's so the problem is how did he create that? He didn't create it by marketing. He created it through the people that he knew. He knew a bunch of these places to go. He had owned a cleaning company years ago and got out of the business. He went right back to those people and said, hey, I've started another cleaning company or whatever. So he had contracts out of the gate from what he knew, and right. He knew people. He didn't have to build it from scratch, and then that led to business. Now, oh, by the way, it's partially because he does a damn good job at what he does, right? Yeah, he employs really good people.
So like he's built relationships, but I have relationships with people that they can be like, hey man, I'm starting a business selling X, Y, and Z, I'd be like, good for you, but I'm not buying anything from you because you're an idiot, So if you have solid processes, that could be like a value proposition to somebody. But I'm just saying some of these companies, it's not to disparage any of them, right? And for a lot of people, they want to be an entrepreneur. They want to be a business owner. They want to get on that other side of the cash flow quadrant that Kiyosaki taught us all about. They don't know how. And so I think franchising solves that how. And I feel for a lot of people, it might not be a lifelong journey. It could be one of those things where you buy the business, you build it up, you sell it to somebody who owns 50 units, and they're just rolling up the entire thing, and that you're going to go on to bigger and better things. And this is that one exit that very few people have those opportunities in life to get wealthy. This might be a thing where put down 50 grand, you give it everything you got for 10 years, and you exit on the other side with $4 or $5 million, and then you go invest in it as something else. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of it's interesting to me, and I do think there's going to be an emerging model where it's I would call it a hybrid franchise, where they're going to go, you call it whatever you want. Here's the blueprint, and we're going to set you up with these suppliers. And if you go find the best suppliers, you can set up an agreement. And I know someone who's done this as a franchisee. You go set up the suppliers, and you say, hey, I'm going to bring you 50,000 or whatever. Let's say I'm going to bring you 1,000 new customers this year.
Yeah.
I want back end on the customers, right? So you get out of a situation where you're forcing somebody into this thing, and you're there to coach them through it. And I know somebody who bought a different franchise making subs, not the first person I mentioned, and they failed.
Right.
And it was so sad. They took everything they had. They were a regional manager for Subway. This company came in from Florida, and they, the CEO of the company was there for 2 weeks, helping them out. Like they did their best, but they simply failed. They actually purchased an old Subway because the Subway had moved into a new complex down the street. So they had there was just but it's just one of those things. It failed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing would have been if, like, they say, hey, here's the place to go buy organic meats and cheeses and all the other stuff you want. Here's how we suggest you organize your store. Here's how we suggest it. They're going to give you ideas that you would have never thought of, right?
Right.
They already have a proven method. They have stores still standing today. But it would give people the opportunity to really be creative, start their own thing, and own a brand, but still have. And I know this is actually a thing that exists already in the tanning industry, the tanning salon industry. So, but anyways, I just think that was really cool. We got a first subscriber question.
Well, and a great question, because I think this is one of those that obviously you and I both have opinions and a little bit of conflicting of opinions on it, but it is one of those things that you can sit for the next 6 months learning nothing about but franchising and still have varying opinions, right? There is no magic bullet here.
And I know some like franchise brokers, and that's their job is,
Absolutely.
hey, I want to go start a business, and you don't pay them. They get paid by whichever franchise you end up choosing. And it's not bad to go sit down with someone like that and have a conversation, because most of them, they probably have 100 conversations and sell one franchise, and that's their business. And, if this is something you are interested in, I compel you, I demand that you go find the absolute slickest lawyer you can find.
Mm-hmm.
Got to make you feel. Here's how you know if you found a good attorney. They make you feel a little gross on the inside. That's a good lawyer.
That is to Danny. I don't feel that way at all.
I feel that way.
Go ahead.
Because I want someone who's looking at the law as a flexible, malleable thing.
I judge my lawyers by giving them the scenario and based on their reactions. So
So I call you at 3:00 in the morning, and then he goes, "Listen, I'm a franchise attorney. I don't do criminal. But find a franchise attorney. Listen, it's worth paying. If you're thinking I'm going to go invest 50, 100, 150, whatever thousands of dollars, if you're thinking you're going to go invest 5,000 into a franchise, it is worth paying a guy $500 to go. This contract is written to screw you left and right at every angle.
Sure.
You have to buy crappy vacuums from this company. You have to buy crappy cleaning supplies.
Mm-hmm.
It won't. This is a dumb contract. It's worth spending the $500 to understand that $5,000 investment would have been flushed down the drain. It's worth that money. So I command you right now, if you're going to start a franchise, find yourself a fantastic franchise attorney, and it may behoove you to find a franchise broker in your area. That we don't have a service or anyone we're going to refer to, but.
And by the way, those are the minimums. If you have not, if you're looking at franchises and you haven't contacted a franchise lawyer and you haven't contacted a franchise broker, I think you have done yourself a disservice. So I think, to me, those are the two minimums. Because one of the other things that a franchise broker is going to do for you is or a good franchise broker is going to ask you what you're wanting out of it and what you're willing to give into it. Because, like you said, there are different franchises. Some people want to own a franchise. They want to hire somebody to run it. They want to go out about their business. And you can't do that with some franchises and stuff like that. So
and they have ownership requirements, that you may not, because like you were saying, man, if I have to be in a Chick-fil-A 30 hours a week, I did something wrong. That's my view of things.
Right.
But there might be somebody out there who is managing a McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever. It's like, that'd be great. I get Sundays off, and it's going to cut their hours and increase their net worth. And it's totally worth it to them. And
apparently there's a lot of them out there, because there's a lot of people that own Chick-fil-A's, right? So so apparently there's a lot of people out there. But that's the point. You just need to make sure you know what you're getting into. The ones that I know that have failed are ones that I think
they certainly weren't on this list. That's for sure.
Right. Well, that was definitely right. A lot of them I know that weren't on that list, but they were also. I would say that 90% of the people that I know that failed in franchising didn't go see that franchise lawyer. They didn't go see that franchise broker. They kind of jumped right into something, right, because of the cost of it or whatever, and there were obvious red flags along the way, is all I'm saying, right? Avoidable red flags along the way.
we're going to jump to this next story, but fun factoid to end this one on is
Yeah.
I think it's 65 or 70%, something wild like that, of the Duncan system is franchised by my people, the Browns, not the
Oh,
Browns,
really?
like
Being a
Indian people.
Longhorn fans, when I think Duncan, I just know that Colt McCoy owns like 38 of them here in Texas.
I don't know who that is.
Colt McCoy was a Longhorn quarterback that then made it to the NFL. And
Mm.
still plays for the NFL. He's actually started for the Giants the last couple of weeks, which Giants are garbage. But he owns like 38 of them. But again, think about this. This guy, this goes specifically to what I was just talking about. Here's a guy that if you're a Longhorn fan, which a lot of the state of Texas is, right? If you're a University of Texas Longhorn fan, you know who Colt McCoy is.
Right.
And if you know that your Dunkin' Donuts down the street is owned by
Colt
McCoy,
McCoy. Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like that.
You're going there over Starbucks.
Yeah, that's smart for Colt McCoy to buy Dunkin' Donuts or Dunkin' franchises in the state of Texas versus I'm going to buy 38 all over the country.
Mark Wahlberg owns a Chevrolet dealership in Ohio.
That is awesome that Marky Mark does anything. But yes.
Underwear model, felon.
Yeah.
Accidentally did a race crime, but that's no big thing. We're a forgiving country.
Nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers that. All right, what's your fourth one?
You ready?
I am.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Cloud kitchens. Now, this is a story all about how I had to learn them, like we would say in the South.
Oh, yeah.
I had to learn them.
I had learning to do.
I had to learn him on this one. I had to teach him. I had to not teach him, but I had to inform him about cloud kitchens. And this is something that we talked about in one of our episodes, where I said in a year where people have watched their, in the restaurant business, they've watched their livelihoods get stripped away from them for one reason or other. Whether obviously the government closing restaurants, ridiculous, unconstitutional, immoral, wrong. Those are my opinions. This is idiots versus idiots. I'm stupid. Everyone listening is
I can
stupid.
verify all those statements that Danny just made. I mean,
but I'm just saying that is my opinion. But that is horrifying. And if you're someone who dreamed of, I'm going to save up money. I'm working at all these not crappy restaurants. I'm working crappy jobs at restaurants as a line cook, as a sous chef. And one day I'm going to go open my own concept. And you live through the Takata year and you go, okay, all these, you can see videos of, something that's illogical, like California, where they close a lady's restaurant after she put all this money into doing outdoor dining.
I saw that. Yes.
And right next in a one parking lot adjacent to her, they have huge tents put up for a movie set. Yeah. And listen, that is, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman. I think about what is the regulatory burden that an industry has before I get into it. And most of the businesses I've gone into up until now, very recently, I'm going to get my real estate license coming up here soon. But up until now have been things that did not involve the government at all. They were just unregulated industries. Marketing, you're starting a marketing company and all this other stuff, and the reason I got into those industries is because there's no barriers to entry and there's no regulation. What Cloud Kitchens offers people is, and this year I think really put through gas on the fire of this industry because of apps like Uber Eats, Grubhub. In Austin, we have Favorites, and they closed all their other cities. I think they're only in Texas. Postmates.
Right.
You have all of these
delivery services. Yeah.
And what's happening and what people are witnessing is, I was just at a Chipotle. Well, I was at Chipotle at the end of last year. And what's really interesting is these newer restaurants are now building a separate delivery kitchen
right
on the adjacent to their. So you come in. So DoorDash guy, Grubhub guy isn't, and I forget which one Uber acquired. I think it was Grubhub, but I can't remember.
Right. You still have Uber Eats in a lot of places, and
well, yeah, Uber Eats is but it acquired
right
Grubhub or DoorDash. I can't remember which one. Nonetheless, what that industry, the food delivery, the balkanization or the democratization of food delivery. So it's not just pizza, it's not just Chinese food anymore.
Right.
It's everything. And they have figured out this way to do it. And, if you go to a restaurant now, they just have a separate ticket taker that just goes, this is what came in a delivery order. And there are some restaurants that are still like, I remember there was a story a couple years ago of, I forget what restaurant it was. I want to say it was Five Guys. The Obama administration made a huge order and said, can you guys just prep it and we're going to come pick it up? And they said, yeah, we don't do that. Like, you can send somebody down here and they can wait, but we don't do what you just asked for. And I don't think it was a political statement. I think they were just saying, we don't do that.
Right. We're not do that.
We're not built for that. So Cloud Kitchens, what Cloud Kitchens as a concept offers, and Travis Kalanick is a massive investor in Cloud Kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what his company's called, but the basic concept of a ghost kitchen is there ain't no restaurant. There's no storefront. There's no dining experience. They've removed the hospitality out of the hospitality industry. And that's why it's a controversial subject among restaurateurs.
Right.
But what it does is it says you and I can go Fat Boy Burgers, Idiot Burger, Idiot Taco, whatever we want, and just say, hey, we're going to put a concept together. We're going to go buy up ad space on one of these apps or 5 of these apps, flood the market with our advertising, and we're a new taco company. We're a new taco shop. If you move to Central Texas, like a lot of people are doing right now, my first order of business was, where are the good tacos at?
Right.
And now, and so what Cloud Kitchens offers is like, you can just start a taco delivery only business.
Yeah, they're classified as light commercial, right? So you can essentially go into a mixed warehouse type of environment. You bulk out a kitchen, right? A commercial kitchen, and like you said, you eliminate no seats, no walk up, no nothing. 100% out the door delivery service, Grubhub, Uber Eats, whatever, right? Comes to your door and you take it out. I think it offers, and I get why some people would be on board with it as far as big investors. I mean, you're talking about one of the biggest issues with restaurants as an entirety is niche restaurants. It's very difficult to, if you're let's say like here, Pluckers, right? As a they serve hot wings and beer and whatever. If for whatever reason hot wings and beer and stuff like that went out of style tomorrow, it would be very difficult for Pluckers to transition their menu and their model to be a burger joint instead of a wing bar, right? Or whatever it is. Where a cloud kitchen or a virtual kitchen in this way could be very nimble. You could be a taco shop for 10 weeks and then, guess what? Gourmet burgers are what's selling right now. Well, we're also going to do burgers now, right? We're also, because it all is around that concept of, we don't have anybody walking in. We have no marketing on the wall or the decor on the, door.
No branding anywhere.
There's no branding anywhere. We are literally, you could be a different type of restaurant every week. You could be 10 different restaurants all running out of the same kitchen and going out in that way, and be very nimble with your menu, be very nimble with what you serve and how you serve it, what times a day you could close. You could only be open for dinner and not at all work the rest of the day if that was your market, if that's what you were trying to go after. So I get the advantageous of it. I think that people like restaurants. I think as the Dos Equis, as you would say, trails out, through next year, due to the different things, I think people go back to restaurants in droves. People like that experience. Now, does that mean there's not a market for this? No, I think there still is. But I don't think cloud kitchens or ghost kitchens is another name for them, take over the restaurant market. I think there will always be a restaurant market as long as there's dating, as long as there's nights out, as long as there's that kind of stuff.
Listen, here's my thought on it, right? Here's what I think. I think it's just offering people scale, right?
Right.
If you thought about opening a restaurant 15 years ago, let's say, right? Because food trucks only became as popular as they are during the crash. And there was I forget the guy's name. He's a chef out in California, and he made a Korean taco truck. And that was like, he's just like, hey man, I'm gonna go make $4 tacos because the entire economy's in the tank, and who's going to walk into my restaurant? And I think what this offers is, there's another added thing here. What you were saying is like, you can just be whatever, Mr. Beast of Vix, I think he's one of the top 10 earners, YouTube earners in 2020, started Mr. Beast Burgers. And he's just popping them up on various cities.
Right.
We have a story. We'll link in the thing in the description. He just said, yeah, we're having Mr. Beast in Dallas. Delivery only. And I think it's so interesting that, in the era that we currently exist, where we have a lot of influencer marketing, how easy is it now and this is not a new concept. In times past, celebrities have owned restaurants. It's not new.
Well, not only owned restaurants, but made partnerships with restaurants. What was
what I'm saying.
Not long ago, it was the Logan Paul burger at McDonald's or some other fast food restaurant.
No, it was not. That's not.
Whatever.
You're entirely incorrect.
Okay,
Travis Scott.
Okay, Travis Scott burger at where?
McDonald's.
All right, so I had it half right. The point is, famous person.
Scott is nowhere near Logan Paul.
I don't
care.
Goodness. Famous person partners with fast food chain. Yeah. Go up and order the Big Man burger, and you get a certain thing, right? It's no different than any other McDonald's burger. It just might have pickles instead of ketchup or whatever. But that's the point. I could see this easily fitting nicely with those kind of relationships, right?
Yes.
Idiots versus idiots, right? The idiot burger, right? We could offer that in Dallas very easily by partnering with a ghost kitchen or whatever.
Yep. And the idiot burger, it would just be a slice of thinly sliced chicken, but there's nothing else on it. It's just a bunch of wrapped up lunch meat.
Sir. How dare you, sir?
No, wouldn't it be funny if it was just like wrapped up lunch meat?
How dare you, sir? That would be wonderful. So I could see that. I could also see this eliminating food trucks entirely. Like, why would I go out and open up a food truck when I could partner with one of these kitchens, test my concept, and if it works, grow it from there, right?
That's what I think, actually. I think it's going to be one of these things where, let's say I'm a big guy, right? I've done a lot of taste testing. So, what I'm driving at is, though, there's a lot of industries, like I said in one of the other stories, I avoid because of regulation and because it creates all these hurdles. Mm-hmm. Whereas with a ghost kitchen, I can absolutely see a version of myself, a long time in the future. I go and I start up with a ghost kitchen. I put together a team. We put together a menu, and then that spins off into food trucks, right? And then we do whatever. But I'm just saying, this is creating what's interesting is, this is going to create, I think, scale. And there's a lot of restaurants, whether it's Chinese takeout, Mexican places, or whatever kind of food where it's just takeout only already, that will benefit from the economy of scale that this kind of offers them, which is, if you go there's a lot of mom and pop Chinese restaurants.
Right.
And I think they're walk up only. And I think they would benefit heavily from, they're going to go be in a cloud kitchen. And the thing about this is, you can take in like you said, a warehouse space that doesn't have all of these retail requirements, right? And then it offers, like, instead of say it costs $50,000 to go build out a restaurant, and you're mostly doing walk up takeout only,
right?
But the cloud kitchen is going to say, yeah, 10 grand or whatever you put up. And in Dallas, we have this thing. It's a food hall. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And it was on Shark Tank. And these guys were going on Shark Tank to talk about their waffle company or whatever the heck they were selling, whatever restaurant it was. Like, yeah, we're in a food hall. So it basically took the concept of a food truck. And it just said, we're going to just put the whole thing, all the trucks are just parked somewhere anyway. We're just going to put a hall down, and we're just all going to split. It's
like a food court or but look, I think
people ain't going to the mall, so they took the food court out, which is probably the only sustainable part of a mall now anyway.
Right, absolutely. No, we have several of those here in Austin, and there've been several of them that have tried to pop up around places and stuff like that, and it creates loyalty. But I think to me, the value in this idea, if it was to catch on, if you got enough of these open in enough big enough cities, right? Dallas and Houston and New York and LA and stuff like that, I think what would be more advantageous is for you to own one of those ghost kitchens and then literally market out the wrapping, right? I make breakfast tacos in the morning, and I make these. What do you want? do you want your wrapping on it is the only thing that changes when the order comes in. I make breakfast tacos for 50 different restaurants, right? And they're all paying me to wrap up the same breakfast taco. Just when it goes out, it has, whatever's,
And so
company
like
on
it's,
it or whatever.
so
You could take, this is how Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and stuff like that. This is how they do it. They all come out instead of Dr. Pepper or Pepsi now, but Pepsi having a bottling company in Austin and Coca-Cola also having a bottle company in Austin. They made a deal with each other decades ago that, hey, you let us make Coca-Cola out of your Pepsi manufacturing plant in Austin, and we'll let you make it out of ours in Chicago or whatever. And it all comes from the same place. So they're utilizing each other's situations across the country. If you use this to leverage food in the same way, where, hey, I'm now opening up if I own a restaurant in Austin, I'm now opening up in Houston, not because I'm opening up a restaurant. I've made a deal with a ghost kitchen in there that's going to make my product and just deliver it.
And the founder, the founder of Uber, Travis Kalanick, who was, it seemed like a failure to a lot of people at that time, but it's starting to look like he was a genius because he hopped out of one business that's never going to turn a profit. And he took a bunch of cash on his way out, and I think his company is called Cloud Kitchens. If I'm correct, I don't recall.
I think if I remember right, when I was doing my research, there was a company called actual Cloud Kitchens.
And I think that's Travis.
And these are Cloud Kitchens, Ghost Kitchens.
Ghost Kitchens it's the Kleenex versus tissue paper.
Right.
So the Ghost Kitchen is probably the more accurate vernacular here, but I just think, like I said, it's going to be, listen, Kylie Jenner has never made makeup in her life. She's never gone to a factory.
Correct.
Yeah. Somebody brought it to her house and said, we can put Kylie on these different lip kits, right? Mr. Beast, I guarantee you. And here's the thing, ultimately is, if people are like, I remember when one of my best friends, he flew into Austin, and we went and sat in the Franklin barbecue line for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we sat in it 3 hours or 2 hours the day before. And we're like, yeah, we screwed up, man. You can't go on a weekend. You're done for. So we had to come back, and he pushed his flight back a day, right? Mm-hmm. So we could go on a Tuesday and sit there. So it was a good time. But it's and you can pay people to go to the Franklin line for you, but I'm saying, if you figure out, because Franklin's is one of those things where it's a process and it's hard to do. Mm-hmm. Barbecue, any good barbecue is going to take time, and it's really hard to measure, because you don't know what kind of demand you're going to have on a given day.
Right.
If you can mitigate most of that by saying, listen, we're just going to, by the time you get to it anyway, it's, hot. It's so what if, companies like that go, yeah, we're going to put a Franklin up in 2 different other cities or whatever, or we're just going to have, our best days of the week are Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every other day we're Cloud Kitchen. We are only using the brisket smokers in the back. You guys can use the front. I'm just saying, this offers so much flexibility in an industry that was historically inflexible.
Right.
And so I'll connect it to something that I'm more familiar with. I know a guy who owns a car dealership, and he's like, yeah, once he lays down a license and a location, he just tells other people, yeah, you go, sublet the spot for me. There's 4 guys under one roof selling different cars, and it's all the same garbage, but it's hilarious. But the point is, he lowered the barrier of entry to people who are interested in an industry. And I think here's what I think. I don't think this is going to kill the restaurant industry. I don't think this is the silver bullet. I think Dos Equis massively hurt the industry. And I think for a lot of people, this is actually how they get back on their feet.
Sure.
Right?
Well, and I think it's an addition to. Sometimes you can have an addition to. It doesn't have to replace. It can be an addition to. I think there's a lot of things this year that have become more mainstream. We talked about even on this show that the show has kind of come out of being this year, and being that this type of show has become more and more mainstream and that kind of thing, being that we talk to each other through, communication this way, no matter where we're
I
at.
still hate it, but
You hate everything. Get out of here. You're an idiot.
Not
Anyway,
true.
the point is I think this would be a great in addition to, if it happens, if it takes hold, if it's a concept. I think there's a lot of money to be made. We already know, and what you're talking about with like Jenner and stuff like that, it's been around forever. It's called white labeling, right? I can take my name, my brand, my whatever, all day long and slap it on somebody else's product and pay them for it, right? Give them a slice of pie or whatever. And I think that's essentially the idea. This restaurant idea is
the George Foreman Grill.
Yeah.
It was literally a company, an agency came to George Foreman and said, "We have 5 products. What do you think?" I think one was a vacuum or something. I don't remember, but he's like, "I really like the grill," and so on and so forth. And the guy made $1 bajillion off a sucky grill. Like, the grill was George Foreman grills were terrible.
I had one or two along the way at some point.
The problem is they took all the fat out of it, right? So then what?
Fat is flavor, right?
Yeah.
But the point is what we were just talking about.
He
put
printed
his name on something else that he didn't develop himself.
Not just his name, the name of all 8 of his children, including his daughter.
That is true, which is insane to me. But
you can't let a guy who's been bopped in the head that many times name kids.
You could make millions of dollars selling this to influencers, right? The like you said, the guy, the podcasting guy, and he's now got a burger, right? If you went to these
he's not a podcasting guy. You have
a YouTube
children
guy.
that are he's a YouTuber.
Why are you busting my balls, Dan? Like,
you
why
have
are you busting
sons that are in his demographic.
Care? What do I care whether he's a podcaster, a YouTuber, an Instagram, a TikToker? I don't care. They're all
those are
social
different
media type. I understand they're different things, and yes, I'm ancient and I'm old. The point though is I think if you took this concept, if you actually got a ghost kitchen up and running, you could sell that burger, that whatever taco to an unbridled amount of YouTubers, podcasters, influencers out there.
I'm also just thinking, like, if you go out there and there's a lot of people who build brands around fitness right now, right? So they go, "Hey, listen, I've got my juice. I got a juice company, Cloud Juice. Juice Land in Austin's printing money, right? It's silly. They print
because
silly money.
the markup on something like that is insane.
Yeah. What does wheatgrass cost? 4 cents, and that's for like 2 years worth of wheatgrass. Is 4 cents.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I've
all
had
the
a
purple
wheatgrass
hairs.
shot before. That is.
It's okay. I'll pass.
That's like licking your freshly minted front lawn right there.
I don't do that. Okay. I don't do that. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. But I'm just saying, like, I really love this concept, and what I really like in any industry or any time in the marketplace, when something really difficult gets democratized, that's when me, the consumer, me, the chubby boy who likes to eat tasty things, that's when I get the opportunity to eat tastier things. That's when I got the when Casual Mail, which is now Destination XL, which is just DXL, does a partnership agreement with Amazon, which is probably bad for them. Right? It's probably not good for DXL. It's great for me.
Sure, absolutely.
It's good for me. So I think what we're going to see is a lot more creativity, because you're 18, 19, 20, and you figure out, like, there's only one thing that I make with, I think is world class, which is a brisket pizza, right? I can figure out now how to give that pizza to the world. Right?
Absolutely.
And I can just say, yeah, we're popping up in Dallas for 2 months. We're going to be in Austin for 3 months, whatever. And that's it. Like, it lowers the barrier to commitment. Like, it's fantastic. And I think it's great. And
can you imagine marketing this to families? Like, I have a wife and 3 kids. Can you imagine if I had a ghost kitchen near me that was partnered with or represented, let's just say 5 different restaurants, right?
Right.
You realize how often I would order from that place, because my wife and I could get this from this menu, my kids could get this from this menu, you know what I mean, or whatever. You could literally, with one delivery, get 3 different restaurants because that's what everybody's feeling for that night. You market that to families.
Yeah. Right. And here's what's interesting. We'll end on this. We've been going a little longer than we anticipated.
Yeah.
A guy last year, and this was part of my initial question to you, was he went on Shark Tank last year with a ghost kitchen concept where he said, I build the ghost kitchen, I rent it out to other people, but I also run 5 different menus. So he just says, I have 5 concepts, there's 8 concepts, I forget what it was, an Asian concept, a pizza concept. And listen, this is actually how restaurant groups function, right?
Right.
They go, okay, we have an Indian fusion restaurant, now we need a Tex-Mex, whatever. And so that they're covering all their bases. And I think that's beautiful. I think that delivery food at the end of the day, this year has kind of proven that, sometimes we got to do weird stuff to feel special.
Right.
And ordering in, now you can take ordering in from like, okay, what choices? It's like the 4 pizza places in that one Chinese restaurant. And then there's that episode of Seinfeld where Lane's like right outside of the delivery zone. Like,
yes.
You don't know Seinfeld.
I know Seinfeld, but I do know Seinfeld. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
no
but
soup
it's
for
like
you. Yes.
No, that's a different episode. But yeah,
I don't care if it's a different episode. It's still Seinfeld. Get on board, you jerk. All right, you busted my balls.
I know, but I'm just saying. So that is what I think is going to be so fun about this. Is it's going to offer people who couldn't previously thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, because somebody's entrepreneurs like you and I are going to go in and we're going to build ghost kitchens, or we're going to figure out the health department side of it. We're going to hire the chefs, and a chef is going to come in and say, okay, you guys already have the line cooks. I'm just going to tell them how to make my food.
Right. Follow this recipe, right? That's what something like that will be. You're buying the recipe, right? And the name from that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. We've talked for long enough today. You're getting on my nerves enough.
Aren't I always on your nerves, though? Isn't that fair to say?
You really are. Like, if there was a median here, you know what I mean? And then there's a high level, you definitely rank up here.
Right, of course.
You definitely, yeah.
That's why we're in business together.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense to me. I regret it more and more each day. You're
stuck with me now, you idiot.
Yeah, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Let's just put it that way.
All righty.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time, folks. We appreciate you.
I don't.
Danny never does. But comment down below. Leave those questions. We'll get to them if we can, just like our very first one we talked about today. Comment down below. Send any issues, as always, to Danny at upyours.com.
That's correct.
Did I get that right this time, Danny?
Yep.
All right, folks. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye now.